Okay,
Yeah,
great.
kita
Thank
video.
you.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start today's session. So as I mentioned before, what we'll cover today is Web of Science. My name is Julin, and I'm the Regional Solution Consultant from Clarivate. I am based out of Singapore, so I do miss coming down to Indonesia to meet all of you face to face, but I hope to be able to do that sometime soon. Okay, so let me stop my video because my computer doesn't really like me doing multiple things at the same time, so do bear with me. So to start today's session, I thought I wanted to share on the screen some of the typical steps that researchers will take when doing their research or writing a research paper. I know on the screen here it says literature review, but essentially most of these steps are applicable to pure research papers as well. So most researchers will always start with identifying the problem that they want to address. So they have to embark on problem formulation to define the topic that they want to research on. Okay? Then followed by, once they have defined the problem or the research topic, then they would embark on a literature search to find all the relevant materials that they might require to help them either substantiate their findings or to find out what has happened in the past. Then once the researchers have collected all these literature, they would do some kind of evaluation and analysis and interpretation to get some findings for discussion and also to conclude their findings. Then finally, they would then go into writing and publishing that paper. So why am I showing you these steps? The reason is because the Web of Science will be able to help you address help you in most of these stages. So through problem formulation, the Web of Science can help you to identify what are the emerging topics, the emerging trends. Then because we index 21,000 plus journals, that translates to almost a few million document counts, that would allow you to do a very good and comprehensive search on literature. On Web of Science, we also have some data evaluation and analysis tools that will help you make some understanding of the data and identify some interesting topics that you might want to look at. Then where can you publish? So let's say, for example, if you are doing research on, say, detergents, then where can you publish your research? So the Web of Science will be able to help you to identify the most suitable journals for your research topic. Now let's start with the first stage, which is problem formulation or identifying the research topic that you want to work on. Most researchers will start with a keyword search to just find out what is happening now and in the world. Even for myself, I like to use keyword searching. So when I want to find out more about something, I drop a keyword search into Google. Now, keyword search is easy, but it is often less comprehensive than what you think. Okay, the reason is because when you are doing a keyword search, you are basically trying to identify where that specific term or that word appears in the content, in the abstract, or in the title. It will not help you to identify trends. It will not help you to identify the relationship between one paper and another paper. Okay, to do that, we will always look at citation relationships. So what is a citation? I believe everyone on this call would understand what is a citation. A citation is a reference to other published materials. So when an article has referenced another article, it usually means that there's some form of relationship between them. It could be in terms of application of the previous findings and so on. So in order to be able to see the complete picture of a research topic or research area, it is important to be able to visualize and see this relationship between different articles. So the Web of Science is essentially a citation index database. So Web of Science is not a full text database, but we index the article title, the journal it is published in, the complete references in the article, the complete list of authors, and their affiliations. So because of this comprehensive indexation of the bibliographic data, we are able to make comprehensive analysis and identify what we call the citation network of the papers. So what is this citation network that I'm talking about? The citation network helps you to identify relationship between different documents. Okay. Okay. So if you see on the screen here, on the bottom right-hand side, you will be able to see, let me show you, what we call, I like to call this my Eureka paper. Okay, so this paper that was published in 2012. So many of us will embark on a keyword search first to have a look around and see what are some of the interesting topics that you can research on. And sometimes when you're browsing, you come across an article that sparks an idea in your head. So it gives you a start of the idea of how you want to frame your research topic. So you would start with this particular paper that gave you the idea. It could be a 2012 paper or some other year, but how do you explore the relationship or the citation network? The first thing is to look backwards in time. So you want to be able to know what has happened before so that you can gain a very good picture and comprehensive picture of what has happened in this particular research topic. So to find papers backwards in history, where would you look for? You would look for the references used by this 2012 paper. So this would be those cited references, the references used. And these would definitely be published before this 2012 paper was published. So this on the left, which is the blue papers, are those that are before. Now, looking back at in history is a good thing, but you also want to know what has happened after this 2012 paper was published until today. In order to do this, you will then be able start to look at the number of times this 2012 paper has been cited by newer content. So the citation counts will lead you to the newer papers published after 2012. And because they have cited this 2012 paper, you can be certain that there is some form of relationship or connectivity between the materials here and the one that you were originally looking at. So now you would see both ends of the timeline, backwards in history, which is the blue papers, and after 2012, which is the green ones, until today. Okay. There is another way to look at the citation network where we would present to you additional related records. So these related records in yellow would represent those papers that share similar references with this 2012 one. So what this means is that they might not have cited the 2012 paper, but because they use similar references, there is some form of relevance to the topic that this 2012 paper was published. So when is this citation network useful? Okay, it is useful when keywords in a topic is not easy to define. One such example would be perhaps Internet of Things, IoT. So IoT can be applied across various specializations, from agriculture to veterinary science to machine learning and computer science. Yeah, but so in order to define something around IoT can be quite difficult. So it's always useful to start exploring the citation network of that specific area or topic that you have identified first. The next thing is, the next use case for exploring the citation network is when you need to trace back to older research materials. Why is it important? So say, for example, if there's any chemistry researchers on the line, you might be looking on a chemical compound, okay? And when it comes to chemical compounds, you always need to know how can it be applied? How has it been applied before? And where is the potential? So to trace back into history is very important to find out when that chemical compound was first discovered and trace and look at its applications over time. So this leads to the third use case, where you need to see where a research trend leads. So to define a good research problem, a good research question, your research topic should always try to cover gaps in that research. And in order to be able to identify what are these gaps, it is important for you to identify the full timeline of that research or that technology's application, for example. So let's take the chemical compound example again. If you have traced back in history as to when that chemical compound had been first discovered, you would then want to know how it has been applied in various forms of applications. Has it been applied in, say, pharmaceutical sciences? Has it been applied in, say, commercial cleaning, detergents and liquids? All these becomes your way of identifying gaps in those applications. Okay. So I'm spending some time explaining this because this is the power of the Web of Science. It allows you to clearly look at the citation network of the paper that, or a group of papers that you are interested to explore more. Now, besides this citation network, what is covered in the Web of Science? This is where it gets very important for researchers, because over the years, many researchers have always been a little bit confused on what's covered in Web of Science, what is covered in Web of Science core collection, what is SCIE, and so on. So the Web of Science core collection covers these various indexes. Okay. So it covers the Science Citation Index Expanded, Social Science Citation Index, Arts and Humanities Citation Index, and Emerging Sources Citation Index. These four indexes make up our journal indexes. So in total, the Web of Science core collection covers over 21,000 journals currently. Then we also have the Conference Proceedings and Book Citation Index, and these covers over 200,000 conference records and over 100,000 books. So these 6 indexes together represent the Web of Science core collection. Then how is this collection built? It is built upon our publisher-neutral selection criteria and based on our emphasis on editorial integrity. The selection of the journals is done in-house by our in-house experts that have no affiliations to publishers or research institutions. This allows for a very strong editorial integrity rigor in selecting the journals only based on their fulfillment of our 24 quality criteria. We also have an additional 4 impact criteria, which once they have fulfilled, allows them to be indexed in our specialized collections. When it comes to open access content, on Web of Science, we do index open access content, and the selection of these open access journals also goes through the same process and criteria as normal journals. To help you understand our selection process, this slide would be very useful. So for any journals that want to be indexed in the Web of Science, they will go through an evaluation process. If they fulfill our quality criteria, there are 24 quality criteria, they will be indexed in the Emerging Sources Citation Index. If they meet an additional 4 more impact criteria, they will be indexed in our specialized collections, which is the Science Citation Index, Social Science, and Arts and Humanities Citation Index. Okay. I'm going to pause here. Are there any questions about the content on Web of Science from the audience? I see the chat there's no questions in the chat. If anyone wants to unmute yourself to ask the question, you can do so as well. Anyone?
Hello, Miss.
Yes, hi.
Sorry. I'm actually, maybe I missed it because I just joined maybe for the last 10 minutes. Sorry,
Sure.
sorry if I missed it.
No problem.
What I would like to ask, if we are organizing an event for ourselves, which is the first year, so first event of ours, so that we don't have any previous experience. So you won't have any proceeding with our name. So how we register it to be indexed by clarify if we decide for not using any publishers as proceeding alone. Is that possible, and how to do it? Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So that would so we have a separate selection criteria and evaluation process for conference proceedings, which I can share with you in the chat box later on. So there's a link that I can share with you. There will be a contact email that you can reach out to submit your conferences to be indexed. So if your conference meets those criteria that we have, then it is possible to be indexed in the Web of Science. Yeah, but the criteria will be slightly different from those of journals. Okay, right. Thanks, Ika. Thanks for your question. Okay, let me just move on first then. Okay, so since we were on the topic of the evaluation criteria, just for interest, in case any one of you on the call are editors of any journals, okay, these are our 28 selection criteria for Web of Science. Okay, so these 24, which is those quality criteria, is the minimum that you have to meet. So everything here you have to meet in order to be indexed in ESCI. If you can meet the additional 4 more impact criteria here, then you go into SCIE, SSCI, or AHCI. One thing to take note of is that these first 2 columns, which is the editorial triage and editorial evaluation, okay, these 2 phases, if you miss out on anything, we would inform you to make correction, and there is no embargo. So once you have made the corrections, you can submit again to be evaluated. Once we enter this part, which is the evaluation for quality, then if you failed the total evaluation, then there is an embargo of 2 years before you can resubmit for evaluation for Web of Science. Okay. So just take note of this. Usually we have webinars for journal editors who want to find out in detail on the selection criteria and selection process. So when that happens, we will usually send out an email blast to inform all the context that we have across the various regions. So do watch out for those sessions and join them. Okay. Now, in terms of the open access content, we do not just indicate on a journal level, the open access journal level. We indicate whether a document, that means the article itself, is open access or not. Okay, so this is done in collaboration with Impact Story and Unpaywall, where we will identify down to the article level which are the content that is free for researchers to read. So for those researchers on the call, you will be looking at possibly some free content to read from Web of Science. And this is through open access. So those few slides were around the content of Web of Science. Now the next part is then about evaluating the data that you have found. Okay, so I've indicated that you can use the citation network to explore the Web of Science to find research gaps, to help you formulate research problems. You can, I've also highlighted what is covered in Web of Science so that you can find the relevant literature for your research. Now, this next part would then be how you can make use of some of these analysis tools that we have to evaluate the content that you have found. So on the screen here, there are two features. One is called Analyze Results. The other one is called Citation Report. So the Analyze Results feature allows you to, as its name suggests, analyze the publications that you have found on Web of Science. So let's say, for example, you did a search for particle physics on Web of Science, and you found 13,000 plus publications. You can use the Analyze Results function to look at all these different fields. So you can look at Web of Science categories, which is the 254 research categories in Web of Science. Okay, this analysis is very useful when you want to find novel applications. Okay, what do I mean by novel applications? Meaning it is interesting applications that perhaps you yourself have never thought of before. Okay, so say, example, this set of documents is on particle physics. If you were looking through this set of categories and you see maybe a few articles mentioning about robotics, then perhaps that could spark some kind of idea in your head to say, hey, how is particle physics related to robotics? That could be an interesting avenue to explore. Then what you do is you go into those set of documents that talk about robotics and see how particle physics has been applied in those papers. Okay, so this is this analysis, which is the Web of Science categories. The other fields that you can analyze here, I will show you during our live demonstration, but you can identify things like potential collaborators from authors. So if you go to authors, you can see who are the researchers around the world that is doing this area of research. There's also the affiliations. So affiliations are what we call organizations or institutions. If you click on affiliations, you will be able to see which are the institutions around the world that is publishing this area of research. Then if you want to identify where you can publish in terms of the journals or the conferences that do publish this area of research, then you can click on publication titles. So publication titles will show you the Web of Science titles that publish this area of research that you have just found. There are also other fields here. So things like funding agencies are also useful to be able to see who is funding this area of research. And on the right-hand side, Citation Reports. This is a feature that allows you to create the citation performance report for the set of documents you were looking at. So as a researcher, this could be very useful when applying for research grants. So if you have previously been granted funding before from various funding agencies and so on, and you want to apply for, say, a new grant or new funding, you want to be able to showcase evidence that what you have done has good citation. So you can actually use this citation report to find your previous publications that have been funded before and showcase its citation performance over time. This can also be useful for showcasing a specific topic. So say, for example, let's say COVID, okay, COVID research. It's only in the recent two years that there was a sharp increase in the number of publications for that particular research area. So and because of that increase, and it's still relevant, you are able to prove and show the publication numbers over time, and therefore substantiate that, hey, I am doing this research related to COVID. It is still relevant, and this is the evidence to show. Okay, so it can be used on any other topics as well. We also have these other features here. I think for this one, highly cited and hot papers, for BRIN access, you might not have access to this, okay? But just wanted to mention this for the benefit of the audience. So there is a filter that you are able to apply called highly cited papers or hot papers. This allows you to look at papers that were published in the past 10 years that have received enough citations to put them in the top 1% of their field. So these papers are the cream of the crop of all the research papers in that particular field and would be important for you to read. Then in terms of the hot papers, these are papers published in the past 2 years. So they are more important, more recent papers, and it helps you to identify trends, hot topics. So they have enough citations to put them in the top 0.1% of their field. Then we have filters sort functionalities available for your search results. So you're able to sort the search results by many different ways, so that it helps you to surface important or relevant content for you to look at. So you can actually sort this by date. You can sort this from oldest first, newest first, highest citations, or even usage. So what is this usage count that I'm talking about? So the usage count refers to how often has this particular article been utilized by researchers in the past 6 months. So utilized in what sense? So that means they have clicked on the link to retrieve the full text. That's counted as one use. Or they have added it to their reference list. That means they added it to Endnote or any other reference management software that they have been using. So those would then count as one use. Okay. Now, I mentioned that the Web of Science is not a full text database, but we do have open access content within the platform that you can retrieve. Okay, so whenever there is a full text available, there will be a link to the publisher's website that can be seen here in the diagram on the left. Okay. So you can see here under the results page, you would see under the abstract, free full text from publisher. And then you can link out to the publisher's website to find the full text. If the content is not free to read, that means it is not open access, then there is still a link to the full text at publisher, but whether you can retrieve the full text depends on whether BRIN has subscription to that particular journal. Okay. Now, we do understand that researchers find it troublesome to go into separate websites to retrieve full text, search for the full text again. So I have a tip for all of you. Now we have this feature called Endnote Click. Okay, so Endnote Click. Later on, I'll show you where you can download this, but it is a plugin that you can install onto your web browser. Once you have installed this onto your web browser, as you are browsing through Web of Science, if there is a full text PDF available, immediately this link will show, View PDF with Endnote Click. And you can then click on this link and immediately retrieve the full text. Now, some of you would also like to filter this down to open access content so that you can immediately see, sorry, pardon me. Yep, sorry. Okay, so for the open access content, you can filter this down to view only those content that is free to read, open access only. So you can filter to this and immediately see which are those articles that you can retrieve for free. Now, to manage this large data set that you have, we also provide some tools to allow you to create custom lists for yourselves. Okay, we understand that when it comes to finding research materials, maybe one search is not enough. You might use multiple searches to find the most relevant content for your use. So to do this, you can also make use of our personalization feature called marked lists. So you can create your own custom list of documents by searching Web of Science and selecting only those that you want to keep. So it's a bit like a bookmark list. So you can bookmark the relevant papers or content that you want to keep and create this into custom lists that we have. So you can save up to 50 custom marked lists, and within each list, you can save up to 50,000 records. Now, within this list, you can also do the features that I had mentioned earlier on, which is the analyze results and the citation reports feature for analysis. Okay. Now, some of you might also want to export the data from Web of Science and merge this with another additional data source to do further analysis. So we allow you to also export the lists that you are able to find on Web of Science, and export options are here on the drop-down menu. So you're able to export this directly to Endnote, Endnote Desktop, Endnote Online. You can also export this in Excel format, or export this into a separate RIS file. So the additional RIS file is used when you are using a reference management tool that is not Endnote. Okay. So there are options for the fields that you can export as well. So you can either do a quick export of the author, title, and source, author, title, source, and abstract, or the full record. So full record would mean that every single field available on Web of Science will be exported. Okay, so that's all the slides that I have. I'm going to pause here for any questions before I go into the live demonstration. Are there any questions? Just feel free to unmute yourself to ask or raise your hands. No? No questions? I will assume that my explanation was very clear. All right, so let's just dive into the live platform then. Okay. So this is the Web of Science platform. This is how it will look like. It might look slightly different for you because currently we have our beta phase for a new menu that we have. So the menu might look slightly different from what you see on your own screen. Okay, but essentially what you see on the middle part here is the same. Okay, so to access Web of Science, I'm not sure whether for BRIN you have, I think you are IP authenticated. So you should, as long as you are signing on via VPN to the BRIN network, or if there's an off-site access method that you have for your e-resources, use that and then come search for the Web of Science database and go into Web of Science. Once you're on Web of Science here, I would encourage you to register. So register for your own ID and password, because this will allow you to use the personalization features that I mentioned before, which is the custom list creation. Okay. So for today's demonstration, I'm going to show you a few, three ways of three types of searches that you can do on Web of Science. The first one is just a simple document search for a topic. Okay, so these are the various fields available for you to search on for Web of Science. Okay, the list can be quite long. Okay, but we do give you a quick explanation of what you are searching. Okay, so if we do a topic search, this would mean that we are searching for a particular keyword within the abstract, the title, and content. Okay, so you are able to search for, say, hydrogen energy. So we can do a quick search on hydrogen energy. And it gives you a very large number of results. So that's 244,000 plus results on Web of Science core collection alone. So what can you do to narrow this down a little bit more? You can see on the left-hand column here, we have a refined results column. This is where you can make use of these search boxes or filters to narrow your search results down. I'm going to show you an example of narrowing this down by searching within this set of results. So say, for example, you are doing hydrogen energy, but you want to look at something more specific. So perhaps the storage of this hydrogen energy. Then you can type another keyword, storage, and do a search. This then brings down the number from 244,000 to about 31,741. Fairly manageable, okay? And it also allows you to do some analysis already. But you can still filter by using any of these different filters here. So we have quick filters available. So I mentioned about highly cited papers and hot papers. You're also able to look at filtering by review article, early access article, open access article. Okay. You can also filter this down by publication year. So depending on whether you want only the past 5 years research or past 10 years, you can do that, or document types and so on. Okay. You can also use the sort functionality as a way for you to identify relevant materials. So by default, it's sort by relevance. But if you click on the drop-down menu, you will be able to see that you can sort this by date. So the newest first, oldest first, citations, usage, and so on. All right. As you are looking through this content and you have identified some useful ones to keep, then you might want to select them. So you can select and add to marked list. Okay, so let's click on add to marked list. And once you have added this, on the top of your menu, when you're looking at the marked list, you would see that there are 3 in that list. Okay. So now this is how you would do a quick sort and search for documents. Remember, I was talking about the citation network. So where can you find this citation network that I was talking about? On each of this result, records, you are able to see immediately without diving in to see the article title, the authors, the journal, and the abstract. On the right-hand side, this is where you find the citation network. So if you want to find the older papers, so that means those published before 2005, then this would be the 46 references. Okay, so this is for the older papers. If you want to know what has happened after 2005, then look at the citations. So there's a link to the 279 papers that have cited this one. Okay, if you need more details of this record, just click through to this document. And you can immediately see the volume issue of the journal that it is published in, the full list of authors, which allows you to link to their author profile. Okay. And at the bottom, there will be additional keywords that you can look at. There's also the affiliations for each author that's here, and also the corresponding email address of the corresponding author. So this is useful when you want to reach out to them for collaborations or discussions. Okay. If you want to retrieve the full text, this is the link to the full text at publisher that you can link out to. Okay, so this is the record that I'm talking about. Let's go back to the results. Okay, so this is the 31,000 results. Now let's say you might have done a very long and comprehensive search with a lot of different filters, and you want to share this set of information with your colleagues. There is a feature here called copy query link. So I can copy this and put this into the chat box. So for those of you who have access to Web of Science, if you click through to that link that I've just sent you on the chat box, you can immediately see the same search that I've just done. Okay. Now let's move on to the data evaluation. So this, the first feature is the analyze results feature. So let's say for hydrogen energy storage, I want to take a closer look at all these documents. So let's click on analyze results. Here, by default, it will show you the Web of Science categories. You can either look at the visualization here. So this visualization allows you to visualize up to 25 different content at a time. Okay, so this might help you to quickly see interesting applications. So maybe it has something you would want to find out, what has this got to do with physics, atomic, molecular, chemical? Then you might want to drill down and see those records. If you want to see even more options, at the bottom here, this would be the table of all the other topics or categories it is in. Okay, so let's scroll here. There is something mentioned in mechanics. So what has hydrogen energy storage have to do with mechanics? You might want to drill down to this 432 papers. So to go to this 432 papers, you can select this and refine results by selected. And that would then limit it down to this 432. Okay. Now this other drop-down menu will allow you to then analyze other fields available. So if you want to find a collaboration country, okay, there is a country and region option. So countries and regions. So these are the top 25 countries in the world that is doing hydrogen energy research. And then you can click to view records for those specific countries. You might also want to look at affiliations. So which are the institutions that do this area of research? Then you have all these various institutions. And if you want to find out who you can reach out to in each of these institutions, just view record. Okay. If you want to know which are the journals that you can publish in, so you can go to publication titles. These would be the journals that you can publish in if you're doing hydrogen energy storage research. Funding agencies are here as well. So these are the funding agencies that have funded papers from this area of research. And of course, you can also look at authors. All right. So everything here, including the visualization, can be downloaded. So you can download the visualization. It will be downloaded in the JPG format. If you want this table, then you scroll all the way down and download data table. So this is the analyze results feature that you can use. I'm going to pause here. Is there any questions or any parts that you want me to explain again? No? Okay, then let me just go here, back to the search results. Now, this other feature that I shared during my presentation is around citation reports, but you can see in here, it has been grayed out. So what can we do? You can actually go to, so the citation reports will only be available for records 10,000 and below. Okay, so one way that I would always like to filter is either by publication year. So perhaps I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and refine and see whether that takes me down to 10,000. Not yet. Then the other way that I could perhaps filter this down to is by article, let me see, a specific category. So maybe I only want to look at relation to energy and fuels, and we refine. And now we have 6,005. Okay, then you can then run the citation reports. And this would be the citation performance and publication trend for this area of research. Okay. Okay, so that takes me to the end of my demonstration for searching the document only. The next part that I'm going to share with you is how to find papers from a specific institution in Indonesia, for example. So the next thing that you can do is do a affiliation search. So you can click on the drop down and select affiliation. And this time around, you can search for an Indonesian affiliation. So let's say I have interest in looking at Indonesian Institute of Sciences, LIPI. So let's search for this. Then there are 7,269 publications from LIPI in the Web of Science core collection. And these are the articles. If I want to know, so if you had this filter, you will be able to see how many of those papers are highly cited papers and hot papers. If you want to see what's the latest paper that from LIPI, then you can sort this by newest first. And you can then see the papers here. Okay. If you want to create an alert, it's also possible. So there's you can register for your own ID and password first and create an alert. This will allow you to be alerted when every time there's a new paper index published by Web of Science for Indonesian Institute of Sciences. If you want to run a citation report for this set of documents, you can also do so. So just click Citation Reports. and you can find the performance over time. Okay. If you want to analyze the results, this gives you an opportunity to find out where you're publishing in, which topics you're publishing in, and so on. So if you select Web of Science categories, this shows you the subject categories that Institute of Science is publishing in. Okay, most of the time it's physics, EEE, material science. Okay, who are you collaborating with? So if you go to affiliations, these are your collaborators. So you have UI, CNRS, ITB, University of Tokyo, IPB, Helmholtz Association. So all these are your collaborators. You can also look at which are the journals that you're publishing in. Okay. So these are the journals and conferences. All right. So this is how you can search for an institution's papers and do the relevant citation reports and analysis. Any questions? Anyone? Check the chat. No. Okay. All right. Then the final thing that I will share with you is on researcher searching. So if you yourself have published a paper before, if anybody wants to volunteer your name, feel free to suggest your name in the chat. Okay, if you know that you have published a paper in Web of Science before, feel free to do that. Okay, so if you click on researcher search, you can claim your own author record. So search for your own name. So I'm going to give you an example. Okay. So let's say this is your name. You might see two of your names here. If both are yours, you can claim both records. This is done through an algorithm. So the AI has actually grouped the papers together. And if it all belongs to you and a specific institution, then it is usually grouped together. If you subsequently have more papers published, we are working on improving this in a release next month in August, where we will automatically send you an email to let you know that a new record has been found and that you can claim this into your existing profile. Okay. So if you have never claimed your record before on Web of Science, you need to register for your own ID and password for Web of Science and claim. Okay, so just follow the instructions. Just click on this name. Click on claim my record. Okay, type in the email address that you want to register. If you have not registered before, follow the instructions on the screen. Okay, for most of you, you would still be linked out to Publons. You can do that, or you can wait till I think it's 18th of August before you can see the exact same thing that I'm doing now, because this is a beta phase that I'm seeing as an employee of Clarivate. So this is what you can do after the 18th of August. Just go in, put in the email address that you want to register, and then continue. For those of you who have already got a Publons ID, then you don't have to do this again. You just sign in and you can just claim your record. Okay. Now, once you have claimed your record, it will look something like this. So let's look here. So this would be your profile. You can put in a picture. It will show you your affiliations. You can link your ORCID ID as well. And you will list down all the publications on Web of Science. You can see here there's an option for you to show publications that are not from Web of Science. So after the 18th of August, there is a way for you to include publications that are not from Web of Science into your author profile. Okay. If you have peer reviewed for journals before, your peer review information will also appear in this second tab here. Okay. And on the right hand side, you would see some of the author metrics for you. So your H index on Web of Science, total publications, and citation counts. If you click on this dashboard, we will show you your author impact beam plot. I'm going to just quickly explain what is this author impact beam plot. This would show you each of your publications' performance in that particular year. So let's say this particular record published in 2018, okay, it has 10 citations that year, and it has been placed in the 88th percentile, meaning in terms of citation performance, this paper is in the top 12%. Okay. So once you see this impact beam plot later on, there's an average that you can see that would be across your full career. Let me just, okay. So this particular citation map is also useful to see who is citing you. So which countries are citing your paper. So you, by clicking on the dashboard, you can then see which are the countries that are citing your documents. Okay. And that's it for the metrics. Okay. Here we also have author position information. So first author, last author, corresponding author, and also your author network. Who are you co-authors with? Ika, you have another question?
Yes, sorry for that.
No problem.
Interested to how clarify position or probe the location of whoever cited our work. For example, I got the ID on Clarifate, and I use my now institution, of course, and then I travel to UK, and when I do my traveling, so I just continue my work, and then writing, and then cite some work, but my position is in UK. So how would you probe that, and how would my profile appear to that work that I cited?
Okay, so the citation is based on the citation counts here. So let's say, for example, let me sort this. Somehow doesn't work at the moment. Hang on, give me a second. Okay, let me see what I can find. So let's say here, this particular paper was cited 11 times. We will go into these 11 papers and see where which countries those papers come from. So it could be from authors from Malaysia, from China, from Singapore. Then those would then be translated into that particular citation map.
All right, so that's based on the institution, not the real-time.
No, it's based on the affiliation of the author for that particular paper that was citing you.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, so let me just come back here. Okay. So do look out for a brand new improvement that we are doing for the author records on August 18th. I would advise you to wait till August 18th to start claiming your profile on Web of Science if you have not done so before, just because we don't want things to get messed up during the transition. Okay. Okay. All right, so that's about all that I have that I wanted to share with you today. There are some additional features here that I wasn't able to show you, but there are some support materials that I would want to share with you on my slides. Okay, so because of your access with BRIN, you will have access to this app. Okay, so it's called Web of Science My Research Assistant. Just follow the QR code, or you can just go to Google Play or Apple App Store to find Web of Science My RA. This app, once you have downloaded it, you can use the ID that you have registered for Web of Science to log in. Once you have done that, it gives you full access to exactly what you get on with the BRIN subscription. Okay, so you can search on your mobile devices on the go. Earlier on, I mentioned that I wanted to show you Endnote Click. So let me just go back to the platform. So to access Endnote Click or install Endnote Click, all you need to do is go to the top of this screen here for the products. So go to product, okay, and there will be Endnote Click. So go there, it opens a separate tab, and you can start to create your Endnote Click account. One thing to take note, this is not Endnote at all. This is just a plugin that is related to Endnote. So how does this work? Let me just come back and do a search for you. Topic. Let's try this. Okay, so let's say I am browsing through Web of Science. I already have Endnote Click installed. It will appear as a separate line. So let me just click in. So this would pop up, this purple ribbon. So it means that there's a free PDF available. I can just click View PDF. And it will start to download the full text. So this is the full text article. I can download PDF to my computer, or I can share it to my colleague, or I can export to Endnote. Okay, so this is Endnote Click. Okay. Then these are some additional training resources that you can go to. There is a Web of Science learning, which it gives you a self-paced learning that you can register for. So you can go and do some additional learning. There's also some videos available for you to view. Okay. Now we have about 5 minutes or so. Any questions from anyone?
Oke, baik Bapak Ibu, ada yang mungkin ingin ditanyakan?
Mau nanya saja Pak, punten.
Iya, baik, silakan Bu.
Yeah, at the last your last presentation mentioned about Web of Science learning. Is it free? Can we follow separately through the website, or do we have to go into one special group? Thank you.
So the support learning part, right? It's free. So you can actually log into, so once you are on Web of Science, there will be a resource center that you can see at the bottom of your screen. I'm not sure why it's not appearing for me, but there is a training portal. So you see here at the bottom, there's also a link to our training portal. So you can click there. And then there is the Essentials course. This is the Web of Science learning that I was talking about. So it's a 90 minutes self-paced course that you can do. And then once you complete this, there will be a certificate of completion that you can receive. Yeah, but it's free.
All right, thank you so much. It helps a lot.
Okay, good. I'll just put the direct link into the chat, so it's more convenient for everyone as well. Okay. Any other questions? If you want to ask in Bahasa, also, you can as well. Then Pak Wandi will translate for me.
Yes, of course. Ya, Bapak Ibu mungkin masih ada yang ingin tanyakan kembali. Oke, baik. Mungkin sudah tidak ada atau mungkin masih belum mencobanya, jadi masih bingung. Mungkin ada nih dari Bu Hismiati bahwa ya,
Hmm.
bagaimana mengakses Web of Science secara remote tidak menggunakan IP BRIN. Untuk ini, oke. Julin, do we have a remote access for Web of Science outside BRIN IP?
Usually you have. So I'm not sure whether for BRIN you have this setup, but I can confirm with DS or Wendy. Do you know? Because it's usually something that I think by default given to most subscribing institutions. So the remote access will work. So what happens is that for the first time when you are using this on Web of Science, you go to Web of Science itself, which is here. Okay. And you register. So that means for the first time you access Web of Science, you still need to be on BRIN network. Yeah. So once you're on the BRIN network, you go and register for your own ID and password. And once you have registered, that same ID and password can be used for remote access. Does that answer the question?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So usually this remote access will stay
Atau mungkin
it will stay active for about 6 months, I believe. So if let's say any user leaves BRIN, they probably have up to 6 months since the last time they accessed this on the BRIN network. Okay.
Ya, mungkin apakah sudah menjawab? Dan mungkin juga untuk remote access mungkin bisa menggunakan VPN dari BRIN itu sendiri ya. Biasanya kan ada, jadi mungkin itu bisa digunakan dari VPN-nya, VPN BRIN. Oke, mungkin masih ada yang ingin perlu ditanyakan. Oke, mungkin jika sudah tidak ada, mungkin misalkan ada pertanyaan di kemudian hari itu mungkin nanti bisa diinformasikan ke PIC-nya nanti, lalu dikumpulkan pertanyaan-pertanyaannya, nanti bisa langsung email ke saya.
I've also indicated my
Julin.
email there.
Iya.
Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you for setting this up, and yeah, I hope I can meet all of you in face-to-face very soon. Part 1D, I think you mistyped your email. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah. The second one is the correct email.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you everyone.
Oke, baik. Terima kasih banyak atas waktu yang diberikan. Thank you very much for Miss Julin for the presentation. Hopefully it will very useful for our researchers in BRIN, and hopefully it can be fully used for the Web of Science, so we can help the researchers to do better in their research.
Yes, definitely.
Next time. Oke.
Alright, thank you
Terima kasih
everyone.
banyak atas semuanya. Mungkin bisa dikembalikan ke Bu Ludia.
Baik, terima kasih Mas Wandi. I thoroughly enjoy your presentation. Your delivery was so engaging. Thank you for your explanation, Julin. Hope you will visit us soon.
Yes.
With this, our event ends. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bapak Ibu mengingatkan
Bye.
kembali. Bye. Bapak Ibu mengingatkan kembali IEEE, Emerald, Springer Nature, Web of Science, dan EBSCO. Untuk awalan bisa diakses di Coworking Space BRIN. Selanjutnya Bapak Ibu bisa membuat akun untuk mengaksesnya di luar BRIN. Kemudian seperti yang tertera di kolom chat, bila ada pertanyaan di luar sesi kita siang ini, Bapak Ibu dapat menghubungi Pak Wandi. Kami mengucapkan terima kasih atas kehadiran dan perhatian Bapak Ibu serta para peserta. Kami mohon maaf bila ada kekurangan. Dengan ini acara kami akhiri. Saya Ludia Arika Bakti dari Direktorat Repositori Multimedia dan Penerbitan Ilmiah. Pamit undur diri. Semoga Bapak Ibu dalam keadaan sehat selalu. Selamat siang. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye Julian, bye
Baik,
Wandi.
Bye, everyone.
bye.
Bye, Lin. Thank you.
Baik, terima kasih banyak Bapak Ibu. Mohon izin.